Hey everyone, this video is going to show you a couple of ways to make a perfect cello or bass bow hold. So first, if you don't have nearby a pencil that has ridges along the outside, please go grab one. If you do have one, great. You could also use a thick colored marker, or a highlighter is good for beginning as well, but it doesn't have the ridges, so maybe not as helpful. But so first we're going to do our bow hold on the bow. So take your thumb and your middle finger and we're going to make a circle. So you're going to bend your thumb, and notice when I bend my thumb it's on an angle, it's not straight up and down. So I'm going to bend a thumb, and I'm going to touch this part of my thumb with that first joint in my middle finger. Okay, and I'm making a nice circle shape that way. All the other fingers are kind of just going to hang out, and that's all it is. It's quite easy, right? If you're having trouble making this really relaxed hand shape, there are a couple of things you could do. One, you can just shake out your hand and then just touch. That works. And then another way, make a loose fist with your hand and then relax it. And again, notice we have this nice big open shape here. We want everything tilting towards the middle of our body slightly. That's called pronating. So if you turn anything towards the middle of your body, that's called pronating. So we want to do that just slightly with our bow hand. Sometimes I see people do the opposite, which is called supinating, and they're turning and leaning on the pinky finger, and that doesn't give us nearly enough sound on our bows. So we want to make sure everything's leaning slightly like you're pouring a glass of water. If you have one, I'm looking around to see if I have one. I don't have one. But you're pouring water this way. Okay, so that's another way to make the bow hold. The cello and bass bow hold is actually quite natural, and I find that students sometimes complicate things and tense up, and that's when we run into issues. So once you've made that nice relaxed shape with your hand, okay, we're going to place the pencil right in here where between the tip of the thumb and that spot on your middle finger. Notice it's not on the bottom, it's on this back corner. So if you imagine a stop sign has a bottom and then it has like this angle, that's where your thumb should be. I hope that makes sense. Okay? Your fingers should have about the same width. I apologize, I was just doing my violin bow. Should have about 3 equal windows, and sometimes we talk about a mouse house. So our mouse house should have 3 windows, a really big back door, a really big front door, and then a doorbell. So you should be able to move your thumb. Your thumb should be nice and flexible. You should be able to roll out and come back in. A few things to notice. Again, I'm leaning on this side, so towards the side or inside of my first finger or index finger. I am not collapsing back this way. And my pinky's not sticking far out from my other fingers. So my pinky's nice and relaxed and just hanging. It's to provide extra weight onto the bow. So you just want your pinky to hang out on the bow like that. Okay, so check that out. Make sure you have a nice open space here. Really relaxed doorbell thumb. So now let's pick up our bows. So as a reminder, when you pick up your bow, if you've just taken it out of your case, it should be loose. We're not going to touch the horsehair with our fingers ever, but we are going to tighten our bows. And when we tighten our bows, you'll see, and I know my bow stick is black, so it's a little harder to see, but you'll notice that we actually gain more space between the frog and the grip, which is where we're going to place our thumb. So it's important actually to tighten our bows, even if we're not going to be playing our instruments. So when you are taking your bow out of the case, go ahead and tighten it, and notice right here I'm gaining a little bit more space. You don't want to tighten it any more than about the width of a pencil right there at the middle of the bow. I don't know if you can tell that's the middle of the bow, right there. I'm not touching with my hands, and I'm not sticking a pencil through the bow. I'm just using my eyes to see that, okay? Bass may be slightly more, but you should make sure that there is still a slight curve in the bow stick. If you've tightened it so much that there's no longer a curve in the stick, you've tightened it too much. Before you play, if you're going to play in a little bit, you should also rosin your bow. So I like to put my thumb here so I don't chip away at the rosin too much, but make sure you put a little extra rosin at the frog, little extra rosin at the tip and then back and forth. If you're playing bass, we just go from frog to tip only a few times. And rosin's really important because if your bow doesn't have rosin on it, the hair is not sticky. And when the hair is not sticky, it doesn't grab the string. So what happens is we tend to compensate by pushing and tensing up and to try to get the string to vibrate and produce sound. And that's when poor habits with our bow hold and bow arm develop. So please make sure that you're rosining your bow two times a week, maybe 3 times or 4 times for bass. Because again, being able to allow the horsehair to grip the string is really important when you're playing. So make sure that you rosin your bow regularly. It'll make a big difference and it makes it way easier to get a nice sound on your instrument. So I have a cello here. I do not have a bass, but same principles apply. So we're going to do the same thing we just did. So take your right hand, bend your thumb, middle finger goes to that first joint, and then everything kind of hangs out. I want this knuckle to be up on top. Okay, so go ahead and place your thumb between, in that little spot between the end of the frog and the grip. We don't want the thumb to slide into here or to slide through the bow this way. Right, so the tip of the thumb is right there. Middle finger goes all the way around and tickles the silver clip on the opposite side of the bow. This is the silver clip. And all of your other fingers just hang out. Notice I still have 3 equal windows between. I'm holding on with this hand because we want to make sure that our pinky doesn't work too hard again, and then that causes this, right? So notice I have a slight angle this way. Everything's leaning on this nice grip you have on your bow just a little bit. We have a nice big open space here. Okay. If you'd like to check and do it with just one hand, point the bow towards the ceiling, and you can do the same thing. So tap your first finger, tap your pinky finger, and wiggle your thumb. Make sure everything is nice and flexible. Okay, go ahead and shake it out. Let's try it one more time. So I'm gonna now have the bow facing the ceiling. Okay, so my thumb is bent. I'm placing the tip of my thumb right there where the frog and the grip meet. Middle finger covers my thumbnail and I make a nice circle here. Ring finger goes next to it by just a little space. Pinky's next to it, but I'm not leaning this way. Slightly towards the tip of the bow. Index finger hangs all around. Make sure your pinky's nice and relaxed, no tension there. And make sure this thumb is also nice and flexible. Okay, let's go ahead and pick up our instruments, and we're just going to try to do this on our instrument. Let's see. So I have my cello in beautiful playing position. So take a moment and check that out. I'm going to place my bow on my knee because I find it easiest there to make a nice bow hold. Bass players, you're going to just have to do this straight up and down, but again, that's a really good way to make sure there's no tension. You'll notice when we turn this way, what happens is your pinky has to work really hard, and I think sometimes we go like this. So we'll try to avoid that, and you can even take your left hand and help your right hand get the bow to the string. Okay, let's tap our index finger, our pinky finger, and wiggle the thumb. Notice the bow stick is closer to me than the hair is, so I have everything tilted towards the scroll just a little bit. And let's practice making a nice even sound on our D string. So I'm just going to do down and up bows. Notice my elbow opens as I do that. My bow is halfway between the bridge, can't see the bridge, and the fingerboard. It's not up here, and it's not on an angle either way. Again, that has to do with your pinky position. So if you're like this, your bow is going to be pointed down towards the floor. We want it nice and open this way. If you're playing a bass, your elbow is pretty much straight. This proportion is not correct, but you want your elbow nice and straight. There's flexibility there, but your motion comes from your arm. Sorry, your shoulder. So we're not sawing this way. Again, this is what happens if our the space here is not, we're not pronating. set a small goal. Let's see if we can have a perfect bow hold and just do 2 quarter notes on our D string. So make that perfect bow hold, check your thumb placement, middle finger. Okay, so perfect bow hold. How'd we do? Now let's try a slightly different rhythm. Do you still have a perfect bow hold? If you can do that, start trying to do it for longer. So perhaps play the first 4 notes of a D major scale. Check. Do you still have a nice bow hold? If not, set it and make a smaller goal, maybe 3 notes of a D major scale. And check it, okay? So gradually increasing the amount of time you can maintain a correct bow hold is really important in this whole process, and consistently reinforcing it as well. So every single time before you start playing, check that bow hold. Even if it just lasts 10 seconds, then maybe next time it'll last 15 seconds, and then 20. And gradually over time, it will become the habit that you have when you are playing. So happy practicing. Goodbye.